Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look in this training module at understanding our GDI or gasoline direct injection in conjunction with our Gen 3 Coyote engines. We're going to be taking an overview of understanding how direct injection works, and then we're going to take a look at some specific tables for programming related to just the direct injection. Now, we also have port injection or low side pressure type of control fitted to our engine as well. We'll talk about the relationship and the programming between the GDI system and the port fuel injection system in the next training module. This is just focusing on GDI and why this is beneficial for a performance engine like this, and why we may want to more lean heavily on the GDI system if we have an upgraded pump and we have the capability to run the primary fuel delivery of the fuel system with our GDI system rather than supplementing with our port fuel injection. They both have their place and they both have their benefits, but the GDI system is definitely beneficial for a performance engine like the Coyote, and we'll talk about how that all works and why it's going to be beneficial and why you may want to try to more heavily influence and use your GDI optimization for tuning your engine. So first things first, I want to open up a stock calibration file to take a look at some areas we have for programming in our GDI system. Now, we're not going to cover all of those areas here. We're going to touch on specifically the end of injection and start of injection programming here and understanding those windows and why it's so important that the GDI programming in the system. We also have pressures that we can command for the high pressure system and high pressure pump that's fitted mechanically driven off of the camshaft on our engine. It's important to understand how that relationship works and understanding just in general how the GDI system works. So if you're unfamiliar with GDI systems and how to tune them and the benefits, this is definitely going to fill you in on those details. So let's go ahead and open up our calibration file. We'll go to File, we'll go to Open up any of our stock files in here. I'm going to go ahead and open up a 2020 Mustang GT manual stock. Again, any of the stock files will work. Let's go ahead and open this up. We're going to go here to our Engine tab. Then we're going to move in to our General tab, move over here to our Fuel tab, and then look specifically under our General tab. Now we have a couple areas for the direct injection programming. We have our DI injection timing. This is going to be specifying where we want the SOI or start of injection to happen at within the engine cycle. We're also going to be calling out the end of injection or a clip where we want the fuel to spray no later in the engine cycle. We have a very small window for the GDI system to work and be effective, and we'll talk about the programming for that and some of those details a little bit later here in the training module. But we'll find that under our DI injection timing, this is where we call out where we want start of injection and putting an end of injection clip in place so that we don't spray too late into our compression stroke and really cause a power loss here on our Gen 3 Coyote engines. We also have our DI PI blending. We'll talk about this more in the next tutorial, focusing on more of the port injection and how it works in this particular Gen 3 application, and then the blending that's going to happen between those. So we'll cover some of our table and programming in here. We also have, in conjunction with this, some other things related to our GDI system. Specifically, we have our DI injection control and all of the programming characterization that falls in line with the GDI injectors. So we can find all of that information here. If you're familiar with tuning a Gen 1 or a Gen 2 Mustang and you went through those training courses, you know that we have injector data to characterize the port fuel injectors for the fuel system. It's super important that the characterization is right, or we're not going to be able to control the injectors correctly, which is going to be completely skewing our airflow modeling and our fuel modeling. We want to make sure the injector data is programmed correctly. We'll find most times, 99% of the time, you're not going to be changing out from the factory GDI fuel injectors, so we really don't have to touch much of anything in our window in here. If we are changing our port fuel injectors, let's say you're going to be doing forced induction, most likely going to be changing your port fuel injectors because the stock port fuel injectors are really small. You'll be going in and programming your low side port fuel injection right here. So the programming language in here should look familiar if you're coming from a Gen 1 or a Gen 2 Coyote. We're going to talk about how to program this in another training module. I don't want to get weighed down too heavily here, but we do have the areas here for the low side port fuel injection, the high side GDI injector characterization. We have our injection timing window here for the GDI system, and then we have our blending between the port and the direct injection. And we also have one other area here that we could potentially edit and look at. That's going to be under our fuel system. And if we go in here, we have our fuel pressure tab, and we're going to find that we have things like our high pressure desired. We could take a look at here. This is going to be commanding, based on engine speed and average fuel mass, this is going to be commanding what the desired pressure is going to be for our GDI system. So we have a high pressure pump. The high pressure pump is driven off of our exhaust camshaft, and that's going to be generating the desired pressures. Now there's a pulse width modulated solenoid that's going to be controlling how much pressure we build within that pump. So there is this kind of mechanical and electrical relationship that happens here. But we give the system a closed loop target of what we want to run for pressure, and within the closed loop system, it's going to be manipulating that high pressure mechanically driven pump to deliver the pressure that we're requesting here. So depending on the condition that we're in, whether we're going to be in normal mode, cranking mode, cold mode, or emissions reduction mode, we're going to find that we have different pressures here. Now, one thing you're going to notice if you're coming from a port fuel injection engine is that the pressures that we command here are substantially higher than a typical low side port fuel injection system. In the port fuel injection, we'll find that we usually run it between, let's just say on a newer gen Coyote like this, anywhere between 50 to 75 PSI, depending on how we're commanding things when we're looking in here for some of our...
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.